In today's episode of Willful, we spoke with Sheryl Gordon, a technical trainer, philanthropist, and author of the book, A Rewording Life. Sheryl co-wrote her book with 1,000 other Canadian contributors who, like her, find meaning and validation in the world through words. Hi Sheryl, thank you so much for joining us today at the Merchant Tavern.
Thank you for having me, Allison. This is lovely.
Good stuff. So in 2015, you collaborated with over 1,000 Canadians in the arts, and you published your first book called A Rewording Life. And I've read it and loved it, and it's to me it's a joyful and melancholic anthology. And it provides definitions for hundreds and hundreds of obscure words. At least they were obscure to me. So before I ask you why you wanted to write this book, I want to get a sense of your childhood and your relationships to words and reading growing up. Were you a big reader and a word nerd as a kid?
I think a lot of people think I was, but I don't think I would have needed to write this book if I were. So unfortunately, the answer is no. I wasn't a big reader. I think the first book I really remember getting into was actually when I was in grade 11 or 12, and it was Helen Keller's book.
Yeah.
And that was a powerful, powerful read for me. And I just remember devouring that just in an afternoon. And then I went to university, and that's when I was trying to make up for lost time. I think I just devoured books from then on.
What did you study when you went to university?
Well, I studied languages. So I grew up in New Brunswick, and my mother was Acadian. So we grew up speaking French and English. And when I went to university, I didn't really know what I wanted to study, but because I had an aptitude with languages and I had that advantage, and maybe I never really pushed myself as much as I could have or should have, I just chose French as a major, and I think subconsciously I wanted to travel as well, so I knew eventually I could go to Paris or France for a year or so. So then, after studying for 2 years, I went to Dalhousie, and Dal offered a program where you could go and study in Aix-en-Provence. And I was going to do that, but I was working in a restaurant at the time, and one of my coworkers, a fellow waitress, she had spent the year in Paris as an au pair, and she had studied at the Sorbonne, and that just had way more cachet than Aix-en-Provence. So I ended up doing some research, and I found a family who lived in the Marais in Paris.
Yep.
And I ended up spending the year with them studying part-time at the Sorbonne. So it was a wonderful experience. Obviously, I was 21 in Paris. And,
What's not to like?
Yeah, and the family I lived with, they were avid readers, and what I loved about their home was they just had a library of books. They didn't have any TV in their living room, and the conversations at dinner time were so rich, and they introduced me to a lot of literature, and it was just a year of basking and luxuriating over the arts and culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Had you thought about being a linguist?